Final hour overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan, now up on TSN2. Confirm or deny continued later in the hour. Kevin Harlan was in the building calling the game last night. San Francisco getting past the Jets. We already turned the page on week one. We're into week two. Go time Thursday night. Big one, too. Bills, Dolphins in Miami. And, yeah, it's a tight spread. I think FanDuel's got it. Is it Dolphins minus 1.5, I think?
If you had to use one, Hazy, if you had to say I'll give you a 2 or 3. Hashtag it's only 1 week down the drain, but where do you go off the top?
It's only 1 week, but in terms of what I think will turn positive in the end, regardless
just
of how
whatever
negative
you
it
think
was.
the big picture storylines, I'll give you one.
Yeah.
It's only 1 week, but I don't think the Jets are going to be that good.
You're going that far.
Wow.
After one game.
I don't think they're going to be Super Bowl contenders.
Okay.
I don't.
I think that's reasonable, too. I don't either. I think the same thing can apply to the Bengals. Something smells wrong
Like
in
a
Cincinnati.
rat.
Yeah, something doesn't smell right in Cincinnati. Doesn't mean they're going to finish with 5 wins or anything like that. But they got to prove they can get back into that race. You know, like a couple of years ago, they were an elite team, and last year they had injuries. And Burrow just seems like he's hurt all the time. You see, like the issue he's got with his hand or his arm. Like it just feels like he's always fighting something, and you lose to New England at home. That is pretty shocking.
Wow,
man.
and you got to live with that. The problem is with these games is they're so spaced out. You got to eat that for a week.
Yep.
People talking about it, people asking about it. Like you're just, and if you have, God forbid, you have another poor performance. Like if a team has 2 poor performances in a row.
They did last year,
That's
Noodles.
it.
They stunk the
I
joint
know.
out for the first 3 or 4 games. Like awful.
I know, but that's what happens is, like the pressure mounts. You were talking about a stat. If you go 0-2, it's hard to climb back. Like not that you can't, but the odds are against you, and that's concerning. Like
Very concerning. Very concerning.
That'll be a good game, though. That Bills Dolphins game.
Well, that's what I would say. It's only week 1, but the beginning of week 2 is a massive game. Like, you know, like, yes, you've got a lot of games after that, but I guarantee you we'll get to the end of the season. We'll get into December, and both these teams will be competing to win the AFC East, and you'll look back on this game. Whoever wins this game, like, that's just a huge leg up on the division. You know, you're 2-0 to start. You've pushed someone aside within your division. You know the Jets started with a loss. You know the Patriots are going to fade. Like, if you start 2-0, that is just such a massive statement. And especially for, I think, the road team. Like, if the Bills go down there, tough environment, it's a night game, so it won't be that hot. It'll still be very warm. But if you can get a win in Miami, that's a huge statement for Josh Allen and the Bills.
And both teams,
Massive.
I don't think, played particularly well to get their victories.
Squeaked out
1.
wins. Exactly.
Yeah. I think the Dolphins, they beat Jacksonville with a field goal at the last second.
And they were chasing it the whole game.
By the way, speaking of, I don't know if my eyes were messed up, but there looked like there was 34 people at that game
There
in
was
Miami.
nobody there in Miami.
Dude, did you see that? Like, I was watching, I'm like, this can't be real. Like,
I've said what I've said about sports in Florida.
Oh my God!
Here we
You
go.
don't
Here
have
it
to go.
comes.
You don't
Here it
have to
comes.
go there.
I've
You
said what
don't.
I've said. I won't continue to reiterate those comments.
Let's just keep it like small picture here. Why the hell was there 34 people at that game? Do they have attendance problems?
I guess. And you know what's crazy is Jacksonville's a state rival. Like, you would think Jags fans would go down to the game.
Great point.
You know, I think it got busier as the game went on, but there were live highlights. You're right. Like when Tyreek Hill caught that pass and went for whatever it was, 68 yards. Like the lower bowl looked half full. Like it was not a full crowd. It was not.
That is weird and unique.
Week 1 against the Giants.
I saw some clips of the crowd, and it honestly looked like there was 400 people in that building. I was
agree with
what?
you.
It was crazy.
I mean, maybe it's a heat thing. I don't know. Although
Dude,
you would think if you're
NFL
from Florida,
fans
like,
show up under any circumstances. That looked like problematic stuff. I don't know what the hell it was, but it looked problematic.
Fans show up no matter what. That one Bills fan was jumping off a bus onto a table. Like,
well, that's a lunatic. But
I know, but like every city has him. I agree. I think it looked lean.
It looked lean. But you know who was in the building? Kevin Harlan was in the building calling that game. So, like, why we're buzzing about it. We're trying to get a read on whether it was packed. And Kevin knows what's up. He's from Wisconsin. He grew up around Lambeau Field. He knows they packed the place. Here he is from CBS. He was calling a game last night. And, again, I believe he was down in Miami on Sunday. Here's Kevin Harlan joining us back on Overdrive. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing great, everybody. Thanks for having me on. Good to hear. What were you talking about? I joined
the crowd in Miami. Was it a full house or was it like a half-full stadium on Sunday?
Oh, no. After halftime when they came back and they showed the kickoff?
Yeah. It looked ugly, man. It didn't look like there were a lot of people there.
They were out drinking and eating. They hadn't gotten back from the bathroom breaks and all the bar activity and all the sites down there. Yeah, they were. It's kind of like, actually, like at a Heat game sometimes we'll see where's the crowd like that's late arriving in Miami, and at halftime they all go back to these suites underneath the stands, and they've got all these wonderful areas set up and great food and drink and everything, and they want to get out of the heat. It was oppressive. It was 92 this past Sunday, but even for the Heat games in the NBA, and kind of the same thing. It's a very relaxed atmosphere down there. Now, it's a great atmosphere, and I adore Miami, the people and everything else, but there's a lot going on down there. There's the beach, there's the water, there's the nice weather, there's just a lot of moving parts. So, but no, they're in back of the Dolphins. It probably didn't look great, and it was 92 in that heat. It's tough on a lot of people, and if you've started your enjoyment of the day earlier in the day, by that halftime, man, you're loaded up. So you've got to make sure that get some water in you as well, get to stay hydrated, and so I think there's just a lot of things going on. But I thought the crowd was pretty good actually. But I agree. I watched the game flying back from San Francisco this morning back home, and I go, God, I don't remember seeing that many empty seats after halftime, but sure enough, there they are. So I know why you would say something like that. So I hear you.
Okay.
Kevin, can you take us back to last week? It seemed like you were pimping it up, and I think it was KC. You were going to the game in a minivan. You had Kurt Warner in the back seat. Like, life was good, man. You guys were having a good time.
Well, we live in Kansas City half the year, and the other half of the year we live on the Great Lakes, where you have a little place up in Wisconsin where I am right now. I actually flew into Green Bay, and so we spent half the year up here and half the year where we raised our family in Kansas City, and our two daughters are there with their husbands and family and kids. So we kind of go back and forth a lot. But anyway, we were in Kansas City. I did the Chiefs for 9 years on radio, so I kind of knew the back ways to get into the stadium, because getting in and out of Arrowhead is no fun. It is one of the reasons why they're trying to redo the stadium and kind of get things back in order there, because the traffic flow is a little bit to be desired. Anyway, I knew the back way in. They said, why don't you drive? So I drove. They rented a minivan when they flew into town the night before, and I've not driven a lot of minivans in my life, but it was fine. And Rich Eisen was there as to my right, and he got the biggest kick out of this whole thing. And yeah, we had fun driving in. And here we got Kurt Warner in the third row of the minivan driving to Arrowhead for this big, AFC Championship game rematch. He's back there sprawled out and just, enjoying the sights and sounds of the ride, and it was enjoyable. We're all a pretty close group and enjoy each other's company, and that was part of it. So I didn't know Rich was going to post it, but he did, and you saw what you saw.
Well, exactly, and you got to see that game, I should say, up close and personal last night. We're chatting with Kevin Harlan. The Jets, they get so much hype, and then they get so much criticism once they actually start playing. It's kind of an amazing conundrum that they deal with all the time. But you saw it up close and personal. Aaron Rodgers, I'm sure you've called so many different games. You had the connection with Green Bay. You're familiar with his history. How did he look to you? Like, watching him, did he look apprehensive at any point? Did he just look relieved that he got through the game, or to his fifth snap, or through the first possession, whatever it was? Can you break down the body language and your impression of how Rodgers looked up close and personal last night?
He is like it's like an NBA player that's had knee surgery or foot surgery, and they're coming back and they're playing. And when they're underneath the basket and they're getting a rebound, and they're jumping up and going for a rebound, I think they're a little concerned when there are a lot of guys below them. Like who am I going to land on? Where are my feet going to plant? And the only thing that I sensed was maybe that, until he got hit for the first time. He's 40 years old. He's missed a whole year. And so there had to be, he's only human, he had to be a little bit, I'm sure he had the butterflies, and it was a little unknown because you really don't know. And he's going up against what I think might be the best team in the NFL and the 49ers with a fierce, fierce defense. And so that, coupled with open night and the whole country watching and having to travel all the way across country, a 5.5-hour flight, and open up, where he grew up basically in his backyard of Chico, California, not too far from that stadium in the Bay Area. So there was a lot going on. I mean, like confluence of a lot of emotions and thoughts, and he's being looked upon as the linchpin for the Jets, who some people think could possibly win that division. I don't see it, but they could, I guess. And he would be the key. And he probably really didn't know what he had until he got out there and started doing it. I mean, he didn't take a snap in preseason, limited exposure during the practices and the joint practice session they had with the Giants when they were hitting, but they weren't touching quarterbacks, but they were hitting. And so I'm sure there was a lot of question mark. And how can't you feel for a guy like that going through those kind of emotions when? First of all, I don't think this team is up to speed with him and the way he sees the game, and they never may be this season. I mean, he's so far advanced, and the things he sees on every play post snap, it's like remember that movie, the Bachelor thing with when they went in that Gaffinak Dallas, whatever that guy.
Yeah, The Hangover.
Yeah, right. And he's at the card table. And he's like a savant at the blackjack table, and he's got they have that one scene where he's kind of looking up in the air, and they got all those cartoon things of all equations and cards and mathematical probabilities. That's Rodgers, and the other guys are like still tying their shoes and pulling up their pants. Like he's so far advanced, and I don't know if they're ever going to get on the same page. So he's living through that world, and that's not easy. He sees so much, and he's got a bunch of young, talented kids around him, but they're trying to get used to him. There's just so many things going on. So last night's performance didn't surprise me. We got a glimpse, I thought, though, of that one drive where they scored in 1 minute and 49 seconds. He hit Lazard on the sideline and then hit Lazard on a seam pattern right down the middle. And they were the kind of throws that a quarterback dreams of. And he put two of them together in one series. So his arm is there. His talent is there. His keen eye and sense is there. His brain is there. I think his body will get there if it's not getting close to already being there. I'm more concerned about the guys around him being able, he's thinking calculus, and they're still working on, 1 + 1. And that's a tough world for a quarterback to live in, but they've never been around a guy like Rodgers before. They've never played with a guy like this before. It's a PhD class compared to just trying to get through junior high.
Well, what kind of grace period, Kevin, are they going to have? It's been years.
I don't know.
The years 40, since right? They've said.
Who knows? Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and it's like you got this guy, and they've been waiting for him. They've been claiming they have the coach and the defense. When do people start saying, I don't know about this?
Well, there's probably a little bit. I came in, we drove after the game from Santa Clara back up to the San Francisco airport where we're all staying last night with a bunch of New York writers, and this is the topic, how is this going to work? I mean, you got a guy who's in fifth gear and driving at 100 miles an hour in a Ferrari, and the other ones are Yugos, and they're trying to they're trying to get on the on-ramp. Like they're trying to get on the highway, and it's just how quickly will they all get up to speed, and how much is he going to have to hit the brakes and slow down a little bit so that, they can kind of catch up. I don't know how much it's going to take in this season. If they can stay healthy, excuse me, if they can stay healthy, they're going to be – they've got some offensive talent, and they probably have enough to win. The line will be watched. They got some old guys there. They got a couple of old proven tackles, and we'll see if they can last the rigors of a season. They're trying to support them with as much as they can, but it may take a while. All that being said, you can only imagine what he'd be like on a team that was really ready to take off and rocket into the world, and I just don't know that the Jets as a team are quite there on offense. Defensively, they kind of surprised me last night. Listen, San Francisco is so good, and they've got all these great weapons. I mean, I don't know who's going to beat San Francisco. We've got them this week in Minnesota against the Vikings, and if Purdy can stay the course, which he did last night, and I think he will, because he seems to be wired that way. I don't know who's going to beat them. They just look like they got every box checked right now. They really look good, San Francisco.
Kevin, I know it's only 1 week, and we talk about it on our show all the time. It's only 1 week, but do you have any storylines, either positive or negative, that you either were surprised with pleasantly or negatively throughout that first week of the NFL?
No, I think the Chiefs are going for a third straight title, which has only been done twice in the history of pro football. Once by Green Bay from 29 to 31. That's 1929 to 1931. And then the Packers did it again with Lombardi from 1965 to 1967. So, we've got two teams, both the same franchise, that have won 3 consecutive championships. And in this day and age, with salary cap and a bigger, longer, more brutal schedule, and just better athletes, quite frankly, than back in the 60s or the 1930s when this happened before, I mean, it's going to be tough. I think the Chiefs are even more energized by the fact that they can grab history here by the throat. And defending it last year after they won, they really were kind of they were kind of wonky. Their offense was not great. They were middle of the pack. Their defense bailed them out, but they got hot and they peaked at the right time during the playoffs, winning in Buffalo and Baltimore, and then of course beating the Niners in the Super Bowl in overtime. So they benefited from defense last year. The year before when they won the Super Bowl, it was offense that won it for them. Now they seem maybe to have that balance, and that will be something I think to watch. If that balance continues through the season, they should get through the AFC. The problem is the AFC is just loaded with great quarterbacks. I mean, everywhere you look, every team, has got something at that position, or the vast majority of these teams have got quarterbacks that are just great. The NFC really doesn't. The AFC does. I'm going to put Rodgers in that category because when he's on, he can be as good as any quarterback in football. I believe it, even at 40 years old. So the Chiefs, to me, are going to be worth watching. I think the Rams, when they get healthy, are going to be a team that will contend with the Lions and with the Niners. But when you get those three teams, and I put Green Bay in there, but the Jordan Love injury is just a killer. Mm-hmm. I mean, now they're going to go with the guy that really was an afterthought, this Malik Willis, and they're going to have to rejigger their offense to make it fit what he can do, and I'm not sure really what he can do. Tennessee drafted him in the third round. They've given up after him. After 3 years, they gave up on him. So I don't know what he's going to present. But had Love stayed healthy, those would be the four teams that, to me, would be the most intriguing, quite frankly. Dallas won, but Dallas always starts strong, and then they can never get it done at the end of the day. They can never finish the job. They can't cross the finish line, and they're great at this part of the year. They kind of hit a trough, and they pick up some momentum, but they can't in the playoffs postseason really seal the deal. So until we see them do anything beyond that, I think it's a Detroit, San Francisco. Philadelphia will be interesting to see. We got a Monday night against Atlanta. But the quarterbacking in the AFC to me is just off the chart, and just going to be, it's every week will be somebody new is going to do something spectacular, and I just can't wait to watch it.
Well, one of those quarterbacks in the AFC for about 20 years was Tom Brady, and now he's in the booth doing color. I know you know him well. You're one of the great play-by-play guys. What's that like? Put us in your shoes, the play-by-play guy, I guess Kevin Burkhardt's shoes. When you get someone in stepping in to call a game for the first time, how much responsibility do you feel to prop him up, to take care of him, to make sure that he's in a good position? Like, how does that work when you're in the booth about to call a big game?
Well, I think to begin the relationship, until you do have a relationship, and they've just started this, and Kevin is a first-class, top-rate, A-plus broadcaster. Got immense respect for Kevin Burkhardt. And they've paired him with the right guy. Kevin's a wonderful human being, number one. So they got him with the right guy. But I think they're probably, I think what you probably have to do is make him feel like you're sitting on two stools at a bar and you're watching a game on TV, and you've almost got to look at him every time you want to try to get something out of him or listen to him. And that may be that you're not going to pay as close attention to changes during, between plays, looking at sub packages coming in, watching the monitor and watching the field. You might have to just really kind of babysit, hold his hand here as he gets used to it. It's complicated in that booth. It is not. It may sound easy, and that's the way I think all of us broadcasters want it to be. But if you're in there, it is the duck above, and then the paddling beneath the water. That's what's going on. And the truck is just like a beehive of all kinds of stuff going on. And then the booth, there's just notes and there's conversation and there's guys in your ear and your headset, and there's so much going on. But hopefully it comes across as like, hey, it's just two guys sitting there on the couch or on a stool at a bar watching a game, and they're talking about it. And I would guess that Kevin probably is paying more attention to Brady than maybe he is even the game, and making sure that Tom feels comfortable. They're trying to connect. And then for Brady, I said this the other day to Judy Battista from the NFL.com website and NFL Network. I said, every play, he's going to see about 18 things going on. And he can talk about all 18 of those things so intelligently and fully. But in the world we're in, he's going to have 20 seconds or less to do that. And he's got to figure out, of those 18 things he sees, what's the most important? How does it relay to why that play worked or didn't work? But maybe even more importantly is what will interest the fan watching the game? What can I give them that they don't already know? Fans that watch these NFL games know the stats, they know the history of these players, on and on and on. They know it all. This is all they do is they read this stuff year round. They're in these fantasy leagues. They're betting on games. I got all this stuff going on. So what can I do to make it different for all these different people that are watching? And the 89-year-old woman in Oshkosh, Wisconsin that is watching, how can I make it entertaining for her as well? So I see 18 things. I got to hit about 5 different people watching my broadcast with the pressure of connecting with this new partner and being a part of a game that is so hard to call on its own, just calling the game. So, there's a lot there, and I don't envy him. Now, listen, his mind, he's prepared. He knows what he sees. If he didn't have one note in front of him, he reinvented the game in some ways with Peyton Manning, that position. So he's played the hardest position in sports. I think, is naturally telegenic. He's a kind, very focused guy. I think he'll be great. And to judge him on one game when he knows that he's got all these different, worlds swirling around him is very tough. And I felt for him, and I'm going to feel for him really all season long until he gets to the point where people are starting to pat him on the back, because I think he'll be terrific. I think he'll be great.
Yep. Well, we'll find out again week 2. That's the beauty of sports in the NFL. It just keeps rolling on. It's great to catch up with you, Kevin. I know it's a busy time of year. Thank you for doing this.
My privilege. Great being on with you, folks. Take care. And I I can't wait for that Raptor team to get good because I want to get back up there again and visit your beautiful city. I love Toronto, and we need them to get good.
Yeah.
We need them to get good
See
again.
you in 6 years, pal.
Yeah,
See you
don't
in
hold your
6
breath.
years.
Don't hold your breath, Kevin. Don't hold your breath. Thanks, Kevin.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Kevin Harlan.
That's hard.
The A team's not coming up to Toronto this year. I can guarantee you that.
Masai said it himself. He's like, "What is this? Is it 5 years? Is it 6?" He goes, "I don't know what this market will bear. I don't know what I'll bear." Mm-hmm. He goes, "But when you're talking about turning something around like this operation, that's what we could be talking about."
Yeah, it might take some time. It's going to take some time. I mean, let's call it what it is. They're not going to be a good team this year.
No, that's
Can
what I
they
thought
be
about when he said
scrappy
we have to get back up there. I said, "Well, we'll see you in 6 years."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see you in a while.
Charles Barkley. There'll be no nothing for a long time.
It's going to take a while. We had a good run. We had a decade where it was a really good run. And now it's, you're cycling through the other way.
Not the best.
Not the best.
By the way, what's happened to that panel? The Barkley, Shaq,
well, they have another year
Ernie.
on the deal. They have another year calling games.
So they're doing it for another year.
Yes, the NBA and TNT has another year. And then after that, they're out, but I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do. As far as I know, like Barkley's sticking around. I don't know about Shaq. I don't know about Kenny and Ernie.
That seemed like a greasy deal. Like it seemed like TNT had and they were like, "No, you don't."
Yeah, we're going to NBC. We're out. Like they just flipped on them basically because TNT was suing them. I think still is suing them.
Amazon, I believe.
Amazon as well. Amazon got a night. That was the one that they were really adamant about that they had matched what Amazon was supplying. Because NBC got back in. That's the crazy thing about the American networks and sports. Like every big league has been on every network, more or less. CBS, NBC, Fox, ABC, and it just over every 10 to 15 years it filters in and out. And like the NBC, that's what I grew up on. The NBA on NBC. That's like watching the Bulls, the Jordan Bulls. It was always on NBC. Always Bob Costas and.
Yep.
The jingle and all that. And then the NBC lost it for a long time, and now they're back in. Anyway, we'll get to our best bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. We got some more confirm or denies in the bank. We'll get to that next.
Oh, I can neither confirm or deny that.
All right. Little confirm or deny after dark. I like it.
Love it.
High-level production around here. All right. We've got a continuation here of confirm or deny. We had a bunch earlier. We have some more in the tank. We figured this is always a good idea. Maybe we start doing this moving forward. All right, a little confirm or deny. We just continue. We see what else is left. Confirm or deny. Very simple stuff. Statements are made. We confirm or we deny them. Confirm or deny. Easton Cowan will play more games for the Maple Leafs this season than Nick Robertson.
I'm going to 100% confirm that. 100% confirm. It's my first hundo of the year.
Wow.
Maybe. I probably had one last year.
I think you've had a few, yep.
Yeah.
I just think when a kid has a season like that, I don't know. I think he's going to play in the NHL. I think he's going to be a good player. I don't know where he's going to play, but I still think the kid that just signed Robertson is probably still ultimately going to get traded. I don't know how that's all going to shake out, but that's what I think. I'm 100% on it.
I'm denying it. I think the other way. I think Robertson, regardless of trade chatter and all of that, he's got an opportunity where, if he plays well, because he did score 13 goals in 56 games last year.
Hey, but Noodles, let's do the numbers here, and better than anyone that someone's probably going to get a better look and a better opportunity. Would you say Easton Cowan's going to be in more advantageous positions in training camp than Nick Robertson?
Yeah, but I don't think they're in direct competition.
Okay, but let's go down the list then. Bobby McMahon's next on the list.
Right.
Then you go to Matthew Nyes, and then you're going to have Pacioretty, a veteran guy. There's only so many left-wing positions for this guy to play. Who's he going to bump out of a playing spot?
What I'm saying is Easton Cowan is young, and keep in mind, it's a huge jump from junior to pro. Like it's not, it takes guys a little bit to adjust. You don't just step in. Like, yes, they're outliers. There are guys that do it, and they have on other teams. But it's not guaranteed for
Okay,
Easton
well, let me
Cowan.
ask you this. From what you've seen the body of work from Nick Robertson, at this point right now, Would you say that Easton Cowan's a better player than Nick Robertson?
At what level? I haven't seen Easton Cowan at the
No,
NHL
they're just
level.
two guys. They're NHL hockey players, and you have to pick
think
one as being a better player.
Cowan's got more upside in what I'm seeing. But what I'm also telling you is Nick Robertson can play on the fourth line, where Easton Cowan, is it good for his development to play on the fourth line?
Probably
9
not.
minutes. That's my point. That's where I'm going with this. I'm not comparing the two players as players. What I'm looking at is Easton Cowan's, like, what's best for Easton Cowan, the player, and what's best for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the player. Or, sorry, the organization. That's where I'm going with it. Robertson has leeway. He's going to be 23-year-old player this year. So they can put him on the fourth line. They can put him in the stands. You don't want to put Easton Cowan on the fourth line, and you don't want to put him in the stands too much. That's my point.
Well,
That's
the other
only
thing
where
is
I'm
the
going with that.
kid's been dying for this so-called opportunity and playing time. If it's fourth liner in the stands, he'll be like, "You guys serious with this?" Whether he deserves it or not.
Yeah. No, I guess that was my point. Is I'm thinking Easton Cowan, if he's not in that top 6 to top 9, I think they probably do something with him. Whereas Robertson is an $875,000 player and can in and out of the lineup, what you name it.
Yeah,
That's where I'm at.
I want to confirm this because it's just a way cooler story
I
to
agree.
cover. Easton
agree.
Cowan making the team, playing, having an impact on the team. It's the number one prospect. He just had an all-world season in the OHL. Like, just ran away with everything, put up massive points, had like a 35-point streak or something. I get
think
it's
it
the
was
OHL.
longer than that.
It might have been longer than that. But that's where he was playing.
Yeah.
You know, like, you can't – I understand what you're saying. He may not hit immediately. There will be some learning curve, and there will be some things that he's going to have to figure out. But he's definitely higher on the depth chart in terms of a future with this team than Nick Robertson.
Yes, no
undoubtedly. And I look at that left side, and all the logic we apply to Nick Robertson, why you sign, why you show up, the exact same thing applies to Cowan. Who's he competing with on the left side? Like Max Pacioretty, 36-year-old who's barely played for 5 years? I'll take the 19-year-old who's flying. Like, if he's flying and ready to play and chomping at the bit and dying to be a Leaf and dying to be in the NHL and he's worked out, he's ready to go, that's very compelling. You know, like, Nyes is going to be ahead of him clearly. McMahon's going to be ahead of him clearly. Like O said, who's he fighting with? Robertson, Pacioretty, Holmberg. You know, maybe Max Domi if Domi plays on the left side, and maybe he just runs out of room.
Here's the other thing, too. Easton Cowan is 19 years old, and he's 5'11", 185 pounds. Like, it takes a little bit, too. Like, we talk about it strength-wise, settling in, you know, using your body, using all of that type of stuff. Nick Robertson isn't a big guy either, and we saw how he was early on, pushed off pucks. Easton Cowan is going to have to adjust to playing, we'll call it a man's game. That's, you know,
Of course he will, just like every
thing
other
for me to say. But
player always has.
But that's my only. I just don't. I think it's a compelling story, and I think he can. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly. What I'm trying to do is protect him and go. Maybe he might not be ready.
He might not. He may not. But you also got to ask the question: where is he in terms of being a prospect, in terms of being an impact player in the league? You know, that's another thing. Like, you bring up his size, which is reasonable, but there's a lot of guys that are not that big that show up and perform and that have to figure it out because they haven't been that big their whole lives, and they're not going to be big once they get to the NHL. Right. You know, I mean,
well, I thought of, like, all I could think of is that Poitras
6'4",
kid.
does it change? I mean, he's 19.
Well, 6'4", but you're if you have some weight, like Nyes. You know, Nyes showed up in the playoffs, got hit, and got hurt. Like, it's a big, big boys game. Yep. I think of that Poitras. Is that his name? Like, Matthew Poitras, the kid in Boston.
Patois, yeah, I think, or something. Yeah,
got hurt. Like, you know, it happens. Like, a young guy step in. Like, to me, if you're a young guy, I feel like you have to have a little bit more. You have to have meat or be special, and Cowan's special. So,
but that's what I'm asking. Yes, exactly. Right. Like, because the guy's not showing up where it's a, hey man, you'd be lucky if you can get 6 to 8 years playing on the bottom six, battle and grind, fight when you have to. That's not what he is projected to be, and that's not the role he's hoping to become. The question is, once you're into that group, you know, the extreme in recent years, you look at Bedard. Bedard's not a big guy, but he's Bedard. Like
Right.
Connor, no one was like, well, he's only 5'10". It's like that kid's Connor Bedard. He's so good, he'll figure it out. How close is Cowan to that? I don't know. I mean, he's obviously
Cowan
not
has the
gonna be Connor
expectations
Bedard,
of going in there, what you've seen in junior. The ultimate, when you look at these kids, is that they become the kid that they were, the player they were in junior. They become that in the NHL. So the ideal scenario would be he comes, and after year 2 or 3, he's looking like you're looking for that guy to take a guy's job, to say maybe we can move on from that guy because this guy can play that position.
Be a dominant player.
Like I thought
That's
that
right.
like a good comparable for Cowan was that Potras as far as domination at junior. Like at 18 years old, Potras had 95 points in 63 games. I think Cowan had that same type of 60 games, 90 points type of thing, and they're both like same type of size, like 5'11", 180 pounds, 185. Like you have to be special. You're going to be top 6 players. I have no doubt. I think Cowan is a special player. Same thing. It's just how quickly can you settle into your game at the NHL level? That's my biggest thing for Cowan.
It's that's the challenge for him and for every young player.
Yeah,
for sure. But let's be clear here. That still applies to Nick Robertson.
100%.
He has to prove that
He's
too.
23. That's the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Only he's even further along in terms of age and development and has less bullets to
less success.
play.
Less,
Yeah, exactly.
All of anything. You name it. You're right.
Absolutely. All right, confirm or deny. If healthy, Deshaun Watson will start every game this season for Cleveland.
Absolutely not. No way, man. They want Jameis Winston playing this week, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way in hell. And I told you, and I don't know if I'm right, but I believe I basically am. He's dying for something to go wrong. Calf, hip,
You think so?
arm.
Eh?
I'm telling you, man. Like, there was question marks, Hayes, I think you brought it up, about last year where a bunch of people thought, like, this guy should be playing.
Yes.
And he just magically wasn't. And was fully prepared to let Joe Flacco go in there and just take the job and take the team to the playoffs. Well, he sat back and watched. I think he's more than happy. He's got an appetite for it. He'd be more than happy to do the same thing this year. Watch. I'm telling you, it's going to happen.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that wouldn't shock me at all.
You make a good point.
It wouldn't shock me at all. Now, again, this is if he's healthy. Basically, the question is, would the Browns just say, screw it, we're done with this guy? Considering the contract, he's got 3 more years, fully
What does
guaranteed.
that look like, being done with that guy?
Well, basically, you just should cut him if you're done with him. And you just have to chew on it and say it was a massive mistake, and a lot of people are going to get fired because of it, and it's a disaster, and we apologize, and we're stupid, and we're idiots, and we screwed up.
A lot of
and we're
people
gonna
get
restart.
fired. The owner's the guy that wanted him.
Well, that's the issue, is the owner's not going to take he's not going to take it on the chin. He'll blame everyone else. But I don't know how you make that work, but if he can't play or it's not going to be playable, then ultimately you're going to have to make that tough decision. That's what Denver did with Russell Wilson. They're dealing with his cap hit for I believe, a couple of years, and it's like massive dead hit.
But they
dead
wanted
cap.
him gone.
But they were like, we're done. He can't play. He can't do it. We have to turn the page. We're moving on, and we're gonna face the penalty. Pittsburgh did that with Antonio Brown. They're like, forget it. We just got It's just got to go. He's just got to be out. We got to find a way to get rid of him. He can't be here anymore. And I wonder if that's going to be the case with Deshaun Watson. I think it's premature to say that right now. I think it's only one game. Both the tackles were injured. It was ugly. But I will deny that he's going to make it to I just feel like they might have to reset him at some point, put someone in there for a week or two. The NFL season's a crazy season. Crazy things happen, and it seems ugly right now for Watson and the Browns.
Hayes, you
deny
know
it as
damn well that like 70% of resetting is like scorched earth and it's game over, man. Like, there is some guys, a goaltending noodles nose can get it back on track, but when you're doing the resetting thing, it's usually a tire fire.
Yes.
A 100% tire fire.
Especially with a veteran player at that position. It doesn't seem possible.
You guys, speaking of resetting, who does Ilya Samsonov play for?
Is he signed yet?
Yes.
Vegas Golden Knights.
Vegas Golden.
Did he go to Vegas? I do not remember him signing in Vegas.
Like, that's the thing. Like, we might have to before the season, because I need a refresher course, man. There's been so much turnover of players. They're like, where is that guy? Like, Ilya Samsonov is the number 2 because Logan Thompson went to Washington.
Washington, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Samsonov in Vegas.
Yeah.
Well, he'll play. Like, he will play there, man. They always go through 3-4 goalies a year. Always.
Yeah, they do.
As soon as I see a signing like that, I look at my phone. I'm like, man, somebody could have called me. They could have called any of us.
Yeah. Well, you see the Marchessault.
I don't see a missed call. I don't see it. It's
no one called you.
Yeah.
Do we have the Marchessault Club? He was on, which podcast was it? Cam and Strick podcast. Okay. Because like, he's in Nashville, but he was talking about his exit from Vegas. This is what Jonathan Marchessault had to say.
They didn't want to go anything long term. They were always in the ballpark of like 3 years. I wanted 4. So that's the first thing that we were so far. We wouldn't. But at first, it was always the agent was calling them. And after Friday, I said, "Well, I've seen those guys for so long. Like, I've talked to them so much. Like, I'm just gonna call them."
Yeah.
So I called Kelly Friday. I told him like what's going on, how big of a factor I'm in your, not just on the ice, but in your locker room. I'm one of those 5 guys that makes the locker room, that makes it enjoyable with the trainers and all that. We had an unbelievable chemistry and atmosphere over there. It was so much fun. So I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, well, we just can't go to terms with you guys. I'm like, okay, well, that's it. So there is no there were some offers, but nothing to consider really. And so it pretty much ended. All good things come to an end, and we hanged up, and still at that day never talked to each other.
All right.
It's ruthless, eh?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair to Vegas, a 3-year deal and a 4-year ask is not that big of a difference. Like, I don't know what the money was, but if he's like, I need 4, and they're like, we can give you 3. If you really want to be in Vegas, you probably could have made 3 work.
Yeah.
But
that's true.
At the same time,
it sounds like Vegas was ready to move on.
That's what it sounds like.
They were like, here's 3 years, and if you want it, great.
But not really. When you think about it, how the way Brian just phrased it, they were like, well, we'll keep you for 3 years. Do you want to stay for 3? And he just had to have the 4th, so that was the deal breaker. And he basically made the deal break.
Yeah. If, again, the money may have been a massive discrepancy.
Yes.
I don't know. But he got 4 in Vegas, I believe. Him and Stamkos both got 4. But, it's not like Vegas. It's not like Vegas said, we're just done. Sorry. Thanks for everything. Like, don't call us, don't ask us.
I'm sure Vegas would spin it their own way, too, where it was like, we had this, and he just said no. So it's all who you ask. But if that's why there's always a deal to be made. It's just where you're going to meet in the middle.
And he's a day one guy. Day one guy, Conn Smythe winner, Cup winner, big in Vegas. Like Vegas, they've only been in the league for 7 years.
This would be year 7. Year 7 coming up.
And they've turned over basically the whole organization outside of William Karlsson and Shea Theodore, I think.
Crazy.
Like, who else is there that...
That is crazy that the whole thing with a cup in the middle and a final appearance is all wiped out.
Yeah.
Well, you know what Joe from the Bridge points out? He got 5 years in Nashville.
That's
what I kept thinking. 5 at 5 or 5 at 4 or something. So if you're at 3 years in Vegas and 5 in Nashville, I mean, man.
Yeah, you're taking it.
For sure. I don't blame him for taking it.
The security. You got to take the security.
But he's also got to be thinking, what I've done for this team, I've won a Conn Smythe. I've been their top goal scorer a bunch of different years. And you're just he seemed like he was a little bit taken back of the idea of letting him walk. And they seem to be quite comfortable to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, he was like, okay, what are you talking about? I'm one of the top 5 guys in the locker room. I hold everything together. And they basically hung up the phone and said, you're going to play somewhere else next year.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like that he was taken back from that, where he was kind of pleading his case. Like, what are you guys doing? You don't want me?
Calling them
himself. That doesn't happen a ton.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, there you go. That's business, man. That's the National Hockey League.
Not messing around.
That's how Vegas operates, right? Thanks for the cup. Thanks for everything else. See you later. We're moving on. Moving on. Off to the next one.
Yeah, see you later.
Yep,
Like,
not
it's
interested.
Crazy.
It just, I have such an immense appreciation for that. Just so much appreciation.
It's ruthless.
It is, but it works. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel coming up next. All right, Vladdy's in the lineup tonight. It's all good. Jays Mets. I'm heading downtown. We're talking about Edmonton and McDavid and how easy it is to get around. You got Tiff tonight and the Jays playing. I'll get down there around midnight tonight. Just before midnight.
Take the people mover.
I should take the people. Me and Willie Nylander. Exactly. TTC, what's up? I'm on Spencer Horwitz, DHing tonight, anytime hit tonight, and Jays money line with Bassett facing his old team. I like the Jays tonight. It was a close one last night. Bassett rolls, Jays win. Spencer Horwitz with a hit. That parlay paying plus 188 on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. And today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. First inning means as much as the ninth when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 19 plus, physically located in Ontario. All right. Good stuff.
Yes.
We're off to week 2 in the NFL. CFL season continuing. We've got a men's friendly, right? We got Canada rolling. They beat the States down in the U.S. Over the weekend. That was a big win for them. And a lot going on with the national team. We got the Jays.
Is all the
playing.
drone stuff over with? Is it done
it's
with?
not over. It's not over. But what are they going to do? I mean, the players are going to keep playing. Jesse Marsh, he doesn't have the answer for it. And the program's in pretty good hands at this point, outside of the drones. It's all good. All right, boys. Good stuff to everyone behind the scenes. Thank you for helping out today. Everyone for tuning in today. Radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate it. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at...
UNL's brother, you can't even get respect in the handshake line.
Ooh.
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.